Practitioners of early real estate founded the organization created how it was when it was created. So we're going to have to come back.
Started. Over. No.
It's interesting that it was amended so many times
Yeah.
in the late
Recently.
90s and the 2000s.
Yeah, because it was about every 8 to 10 years, and then all of a sudden it's every year, every other year, yep.
We're gonna start off the test with the answers.
Mine's-
And we're just gonna kind of go through what each article up to nine up to through 9 are duties to our clients and customers. Is that off? Do I have to turn that off? Just leave it. The icebreaker exercise, we're just going to start with the answers. Article 1, it's to treat all parties honestly. I guess that's kind of a no-brainer to some people. I had a case this morning, dishonest realtor in the Minneapolis area. He promised this, promised that to get a listing, and he told his clients that, and they were nervous because they needed to move. And he told them, if you need to move, I have a renter for you. And ends up when the renter came to meet the clients, it was him. He wanted to rent the property. So he didn't disclose that to him right off the bat. He's got a violation right there. And the long story short, he ended up, he rented it for a year and owed him $10,000 at the end of a year in back rents. Promised to pay this, promised to pay that, never did. We ended up, we had to dismiss the case because the complaint came 6 months after the violations happened. Even though he lived there for the year, he wasn't an agent when he rented the house for the last 6, 8 months. So we had to dismiss the complaint because the complainant didn't file their case within 6 months. That's what the rules are. 6 months from when they knew of the violation. They waited too long.
So what is it then when it's 2 years?
What's that?
Well, there's something where you can file within 2 years. What is that then? That's not the
That
ethics?
might be, that could be a court case or something like that. On the ethics committee, you have to file a complaint within 6 months of you knowing what happened. So we ended up, we had questions after the conference this morning. We had to email the complaint to establish a date when certain things were known, and they were all over 6 months. So we hated to dismiss it because they were, it's pretty obvious that this guy really didn't even admit it. He said, I lied to you in an email. But we hadn't let it go.
I suppose at first they were happy to have a renter, so they didn't even realize he was unethical. And then he didn't pay, and that's when they probably started digging in a little deeper, and it was too late.
Well, some of these ethics, like Article 1, treat all parties honestly. Article 2 is disclose pertinent facts. If you list a house and you know that there's something wrong with the house that could affect the use of the house to a fire or whatever, you have to disclose that. And the first thing you want to do is make sure that your clients disclose it. They understand that they have to disclose it or they can get in trouble. You don't have to go out and discover facts. You don't have to do your own inspection and look for things that are wrong with the house. You're not obligated to do that. And we had a lot of discussion on bad guys in the neighborhood. You don't have to find that out either. You just have to direct them to the alliance on your agency form to call to find bad guys. So that's Article 2. You don't need to find latent defects. Article 3 is cooperate with other brokers. You're required as a realtor to cooperate with other realtors. If they're not realtors, there's a gray area there, but you have to treat everybody fairly, regardless if they're a realtor or just a real estate, what do you call it, real estate agent, whatever. But we are required to cooperate with other brokers. That's part of our association and National Association of Realtors. Article 4 is make your true possession known, or true position known when presenting offers. That's your real estate agency or whatever. When you bring in an offer, you have to tell, you don't have to show them your buyer or your buyer rep docs, but you have to tell them. If they ask for it, tell them to call your broker. Thank you. Article 5, disclose present or contemplated interest in the property. If you intend on purchasing a property yourself, you have to disclose that in writing on your offer or before making that offer. Or if you're making an offer for a relative, I think it's immediate family or any relative, I would say disclose that. You have an interest there, basically. Article 6, disclose financial benefits from recommending the service. This is one of the things that this guy did wrong. He said, I'll get a stager for you. Ended up the stager was his wife, and they paid her $500 for staging the house, which, you know, whatever. He didn't disclose it was his wife until she actually did the job. It was another violation he had. That's one reason we had to dismiss it, because the actual date that they did that was over a year ago. Careful. Tell your clients to be careful when they accuse you of something. Let's see, that was 6. 7 is receive compensation from one party, only with informed consent. That's why we have our compensation disclosure. You have to disclose. I don't know why we have to as realtors. Other companies don't. Lawyers don't even have to disclose what they're making in the end.
They should.
But anyway, we have to disclose that. There's a form for that. Article 8 is keep client funds in a separate escrow account. I guess your only duty is to make sure that your earnest money gets in a timely manner within the 2 days, 2-day period. Otherwise, all that money is in an escrow account here in the office. What was that? 8. Article 9 is all transactions are in writing. Verbal transactions just don't cut it. Some lawyers might say that a verbal contract is a contract, but in real estate, it's not going to fly. So anyway, I printed out Code of Ethics from the association, and I highlighted items under each article that stand out, what the important things are about them. Article 1 is to protect the interest of your client. You're obligated to treat all parties honestly. That means if you're your client, customer, whoever they are. And you have to be careful what you say electronically or Facebook. I keep seeing Facebook things on there that we shouldn't be posting. Agents, even in our office.
Like what should, yeah, for example.
Criticizing other agents is a
right.
big thing. I mean, it's treating everybody fairly, but we've got to be careful what we say electronically. In this case, there were 36 pages of electronic back and forth between the agent and the client. And in there, he must have inadvertently said, "I'm sorry, I lied to you." And it's in writing, you know. But just be careful what you say, any way you say it.
Sounds like there's a reason he didn't make it in real estate.
He's still in real estate.
He is?
In another company. He's switched companies.
Oh.
I'll tell you, he was a Keller Williams agent one time. He was gone.
At this time, was he?
Back when he first listed the property. A year later, he wasn't. But he made some promises too. He said, "I would sell your house within 30 days." He didn't. He said he had a renter for the property, and when he showed up with the renter, it was himself.
And this is just one that complained.
One guy. This is all.
Oh, I'm just saying, this is just one person that complained. You don't know how many times these things were done before that.
Well, the person that filed the complaints named two other agents from different companies that filed complaints. I don't know how they do that, but they said they didn't take that into consideration. But he didn't have any other violations, which kind of surprised me with the way he handled this thing. Then
And
after,
now he still doesn't. And now he still doesn't.
well, no, he won't either. That's because the complaint wasn't filed timely.
But since then, this person seems like they are reputable, as far as you know.
I wouldn't trust him. I mean,
Well,
but I can't say anything bad about another
no,
realtor.
right.
Can't say who it was or where
Well,
it was.
the thing is, in this industry, we all know this because we hear it in our classes and we hear it from our brokers, and we have to every 2 years, you know, we go over this constantly. So we know it. But the sad thing is the average person hiring us doesn't have a clue what we're supposed to be about.
How to file it.
So they think when we market ourselves as ethical, that makes us different than any other realtor, but it's what we've all agreed to. It's what we've all committed to.
Right.
So that's where I think sometimes you're not hearing those complaints, because the average person who's hiring us to do that job, there's a lot of people that have no idea that they can complain.
Yeah, that's right. And this person said that they filed well, this was a different one. Last week had a different one, but they filed a complaint with the Commerce Department. It was a realtor against a realtor, and that's not the way to do it. You have to file with the Professional Standards Committee and Minnesota Association of Realtors. So if you come across somebody doing something bad, you should file a complaint. So that's the only bad thing about our system is there aren't very many complaints because people think that, oh, you know, I'm not going to file a complaint against that person because they're the #1 agent in Rochester or whatever, and they're, you know, I have to do business with them in the future. But Professional Standards Board really wants people to make these complaints so we weed out these problems. At least make the culprits aware that they're tolerated. And there's big fines involved for these things, up to $15,000, which is a lot. I think the highest fine I was ever involved in was $5,000. It wasn't something where it really hurt people badly, but it was unethical stuff. Anyway, back to this. Article 1. When you're doing a CMA, keep in mind that you want to do it honestly. You don't want to inflate the price just to get a listing. I've seen it happen on the other side to me, you know, when I brought in a CMA and I had a really good price, I think. But another agent came in and more or less outbid me on the price of the house, came in $25,000 higher on the price, and then came back, you know, a month later and lowered the price back down to where we would have been. Well, it's hard to prove it's unethical or if that was their intent, but you know, it's something you don't want to do yourself. Take the high road. You can't promise that you will, by listing with you, you're going to save a lot of money or whatever, unless you're going to provide services. Like if we provide free staging, free professional, this and that, that's okay, but you can't overpromise just to get a listing. Be honest. All offers and counter offers have to be presented timely, immediately, and always give a copy of anything anybody signs. Give them a copy right there. If you have to go to a house, bring 2 copies. Have them sign one, sign the other one for their own, so they can't come back and say that they never got copies. I've probably heard a dozen times at hearings where the seller or buyer, the public says, I never got a copy of that, you know. Or they'll say, I didn't sign that, I didn't initial that. And they never got copies of it, that kind of thing. So if you hand them copies, make a note of it in your record or whatever, keep a file, and every time you do something, just make a note. Purchase agreement copy to buyers. You know, purchase or listing agreement copy given to the sellers. And same thing with like agency, if somebody refuses to sign it, say I'm not going to sign that, write on there that person refused to sign it, put it in your file. So they can't come back and say that, well, you never, you know, told me this. If you have it in your notes, the notes fly. If you have it in a note that's dated properly or something, that you handed an agency, that'll do, especially in an ethics case. Questions about forms and stuff? It's another class. You're obligated to present all offers up until one is accepted. And after an offer is accepted, you don't have to market that house anymore. Same thing with a buyer. If a buyer writes a contract on a house, you're not obligated to show them any more houses. If they want to see something, it's up to you, but remind them that they're under contract, that you can't just go out and buy another house. Preserve confidential information. If a seller, say a divorce situation, something like that, say they're planning on a divorce, they don't want anybody to know about it, you're obligated not to say anything. But if they think it's going to help them get their house sold, that they're desperate or whatever, and they want the public to know that, they say, I don't care, tell another, I wouldn't publicize it or anything. But if an agent asks you if, what's the motivation, if they say it's okay to tell them that, it's okay. So make sure you get it in writing too. Otherwise you might get yourself in a libel suit. Revealing confidential information that has nothing to do with defects in the house. If they tell you there's a big crack in the wall hidden in the basement, you are liable to disclose that to everybody, potential buyers or other realtors. But you don't have to go look for that. So 110. Oh, you have to be competent. Clear? Is that perfectly clear? Okay, you have to be competent in your dealings.
Okay.
Working in the best interest of your buyers or sellers, listers. Be better classes. You have to disclose dual agency on a purchase agreement, and you're going to ask for it on your buyer rep and your listing. They may not agree to it then, but if purchase comes along, they can agree to it later. But you have to tell them the ramifications of dual agency.
How does that work if they don't agree to it while you're listing? If they don't agree to it, so let's say I have a listing, which I don't know why you wouldn't do it, but you know, there's people, you might get one. I have a listing and now you've got a potential buyer. Well, we got dual agency going on. If they don't agree to dual agency, are they even gonna?
If you take the listing and they do not agree to that, you need to notify, I don't know if it'll still be Nikki, but you gotta tell Jim. Right. And you gotta tell Nikki, and then they've gotta tell everyone in our office, we are not allowed to show that property.
Okay, yeah, so I understand that part.
Yeah.
But I mean, how are you gonna how are they even gonna have the opportunity to change their mind unless they change it because they're not selling and they decide to go back to dual agency? I mean,
Well, my buyer sees it on Zillow and I say, I can't show you that property, but I tell you.
and then I say, hey, I might have a potential buyer, but we're talking dual agency here. Would you like to reconsider?
That or get their permission to show it to an agent from our office and just say, just in the byline that this will be dual agency.
And then is it kind of almost like it falls into the category of a one-time showing for dual agency? I mean, does it get really complicated or not?
No, I think you just need to disclose to them that if you show your house, you have to get permission to show it first, because they didn't agree to dual agency to begin with.
And either via email or type something up and have them
Email.
sign and date it that they are okay with this and our understanding. Okay.
Just anything you can get in writing that says, yes, I
Right.
agree to show it to them, even though it's a dual agency.
Right.
And if an offer comes in, they have to agree to dual agency on that purchase.
Okay.
I don't know why people say they don't want it, but
Oh, I wouldn't either, but you might have it.
yeah, some lawyers don't like it. They don't believe in dual agency. Some states don't allow it at
Allow it,
all.
right.
Canada just disallowed. Canada just passed a law. So
No dual
there's no dual
agency?
agencies.
I just think it really, I mean, look at how big Keller Williams is. Look at how big Remax is and Edina. I mean, if you can't have dual agency, just think. Well, it's chaos. Because if your agent is from that same office, I mean, then it's hard on the agents, because they could all of a sudden, if somebody really wants that and really just can't do dual agency, they're gonna jump ship and go to I mean, you could have a lot of potential buyers jumping ship a lot, depending upon what they wanna look at.
Yeah, that situation came up not too long ago where the buyer wanted to do that, and I can't remember how it ended up, but they wanted to see a house that was listed by Keller Williams agent, buyer rep, but they would have had to go to another company, have them show it to them, write the offer. Then I guess you have to go to or something like that to get paid.
But if you went as a state of Minnesota with no dual agency, what a mess. It gets complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated. But anyway, you just have to, if you, in a dual agency situation, both parties have to agree to it. When you have a listing, or this applies mostly to property management, but if you have a listing, especially if it's vacant, you have to use care just like it was your own house. Comes up especially in wintertime. If you have a vacant house, we have a form, a winterizing agreement or something like that, they call it. It's a winterization notification or something like that. But in the winter, you're responsible for the house under your care. People are gone. And you have the listing. You got to make sure that the house is, at least, you don't have to maintain it, but you have to make sure that it's not vulnerable or whatever. And if it's winter time, you should get a winterization done on the house, or at least have them sign off if they don't want to do it. They take that responsibility. Keeping track of keys, lock boxes. What else would we do?
For vacant, are you still talking about
Well, vacant, or even two
Oh, yeah.
houses that are listed, you know, keeping track of keys, not leaking out garage codes, things like that, unless they want you to. Keeping track of keys, especially vacant properties, apartment houses, stuff like that. Because you're responsible for it.
I'm assuming when you leave an open house, if you're the one showing it, making sure all doors for sure are locked, that the house is locked back up.
Just whatever their instructions are, lights off. This and that. I usually tell my sellers that if there's going to be multiple showings, turn the lights on, just leave them on, you know, and then I'll leave a note for realtors, leave lights on,
Mhm.
or I'll have them. But I get calls every now and then, yeah, they left the lights on. This and that.
Or they locked the door and we can't get in, and
Yeah.
we always go in through the garage, now they locked that one.
Yeah. Well, I always make an extra key just in case those things happen, and I keep it in my file. Hopefully, hopefully I can find it when I need it. But
And remember to bring it to the closing.
yeah, sometimes realtors walk off with the key, you know, and try to find out where they are, and they'll deny it. Or sometimes they'll drop it down in between the
Oh.
steps, and it disappears in.
I've had that fear
That happened to me
showing
once.
houses. That
I
is the
spent
worst.
like 3 hours digging a key out of in between the house and the concrete block steps. Okay, reasonable care with your listings. Does anybody do property management?
Used to.
I did too, but I don't anymore. Our company used to frown on it. They didn't like to take on the responsibility of property management, risk and stuff, but I have no problem. And neither does Zach. So if there are any problems, go to Zach. Well, let's see, where are we? Don't let anybody into the house without authorization. Had a situation a few years ago where I had a listing and people moved out on a Friday. Closing wasn't until Monday, but they moved all their stuff in over the weekend without permission. Yeah, the realtor just said, go ahead, it's vacant. And then it didn't close for another week. So it was some tie-up. Could have been a real can of worms. Fortunately, it worked its way out. But anyway, don't give away keys. Don't allow anybody in the house either. Don't let your clients move in early. There's another article in Inman this week about moving in early, all the bad things about it. And if you can at all, if you can avoid it, avoid all. Let's see.
Sure.
I'm going to Article 2 now. Let's get one over Article 1 there. Avoid exaggeration, misrepresentation, or concealment of pertinent facts. That goes beyond. Everybody should be able to figure that out. You're not obligated to discover latent facts or latent defects. Article 3. Cooperating with other brokers in your client's best interest.
Jim, can I touch base with you on this later? Sorry.
Sure. Just take that, read the highlighted things, and learn everything to learn.
Thank you.
Good luck. Well, since there's 3 of us, we can pose it. Okay, let's see. And accept the commission without disclosing what your commissions are. Let's see, there's one here that's in the article, but it's not applicable to Minnesota. Well, recommending other companies and getting kickbacks, I guess you'd call it. In Minnesota, I'm pretty sure it's not allowed at all, because we just went through this last week with another outfit that wanted to come in and give us compensation.
Even if you disclose. So even if it's disclosed to all parties,
Right. It's against the
Minnesota
law
says
here.
you can't do it no matter what.
Right, yep. Minnesota law goes over and above what the Code of Ethics says. Can't accept compensation from more than one party. I think the most important thing under 9 is to make sure that everybody has copies of everything inside. It comes up in hearings all the time. Gotta watch another movie. This back page here is kind of a recap of everything under Articles 1 through 9. And then there's a test with all the answers. I would just suggest that you read this on your own. And I just put a couple of notes on here why, what the correct answers are for the false things.
Where was that?
Should be in that. Isn't it?
It's on the back of this.
The back of that.
Yeah.
Very.
Do you want to go through these?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this is the test.
I
And,
don't need more paper.
okay. Realtors are subject to the Code of Ethics. True. Authority to conduct arbitration is established under Article 17 of the Code of Ethics. True. When the Code of Ethics and state law conflict, law takes precedence. That's true. NAR Board of Directors must approve changes to the Code of Ethics. NAR delegate body must approve any changes to the articles. That's true. Code of Ethics is divided into 3 major sections: duties to clients and customers, duties to the public, and here it says duties to the community. It's not true. It's duties to other realtors. Standard of practice, support, interpret, and amplify the respective articles. That's true. First adopted in 1913, the Code of Ethics was to establish a professional standard of conduct, which is true. Essential interpretations of the Code of Ethics are specific fact situations that explain the articles and standards of practice of the Code of Ethics. It's true. Only realtors may file ethics complaints. That's not true. Anyone can file a ethics complaint. Code of Ethics always has required that realtors respect other brokers' exclusive relationships. That's true. Code of Ethics is based on license law. It's not. It's just the opposite. The license laws, most license law are taken after the Code of Ethics. Let's see, procuring cause is determining factor in ethics cases. That's not true. Clear, strong evidence is what determines the outcome of an ethics case. Preamble can be cited for a violation, and that's false. Only the Code of Ethics can be. Article 17, based on broad statements of ethical principles. True, I don't know what that means, but it's there. Enforcing the Code of Ethics rests with each state's regulating body and each local association. That's false. It's a state association. Ethics complaints often are based on disputes between realtors of different firms over different fees. That's false. Our money and disputes are arbitrated, and they are required. We're required to arbitrate under the Code of Ethics. You can't just go to court and sue another realtor because you agreed to use arbitration.
So is that part of our license?
Yeah.
When we get our
It's
license,
part
we
of
sign
our-
arbitration?
It's part of our association and our membership in the Minnesota Association of Realtors. Code of Ethics
So that would
requires,
be Minnesota only, right? That would be based on Minnesota. Because
uh,
other states don't have arbitration.
some do, some don't, but our state, well, actually, if you're a realtor, you are required to arbitrate.
Oh, so
No matter where it
what-
is, yeah,
okay.
it's in the Code of Ethics. So I don't know if other states don't have arbitration, but they must. I mean, associations have to allow, or associations have to provide for arbitration panels.
I've got a good question for you. So what if you have, someone who decides not to be a realtor and just wants to be an agent? Do they have the right then to sue?
Yes.
Okay, so then they could go up against
Well, they
somebody
could
who's a realtor and actually sue them because they haven't signed it.
probably, yeah.
And there are a few
But they
people
can go to our association too. They can file a complaint with our association.
and go through arbitration.
Arbitration.
But if they choose not to, the choice is theirs.
I guess they can do what they want. Article 4, the code prohibits exaggeration, misrepresentation, and concealment of facts. It's actually Article 2, not 4. Disciplinary action in an ethics hearing can include a fine of no more than $1,000. That's wrong. It's $15,000. Standard of proof in an ethics hearing is preponderance of evidence. That's false. It's clear, convincing, strong evidence. Ethics and arbitration enforcement processes include an initial screening by a grievance committee. That's true. Happens is there'll be three agents from all over the state. They're on the professional standards board, and a representative from the professional standards. We like it when the lawyers are there. They'll say sometimes they have an assistant, but then we decide if a complaint is timely, and if they have the right articles. And after we read the complaint, we don't see the response. We just see the complaint. And if the complaint, if it's true or could be true, we have to extend it on to a full hearing. If the wrong articles are listed as in the complaint, we can add articles too. Like if it's really clear that they violated another article, we can add that too. Or we can take articles out. Or then we can ask questions too if we have questions, like we did today. Okay, where was I? Ombudsman determines entitlement to compensation in an arbitration hearing. That's false. It's Professional Standards Committee. Our ombudsmen it's kind of a relatively new thing where they just bring in an outside person to try to bring people together. And if they agree to something, they'll agree to it in writing. That's final. If they don't agree, they can still go on and file a complaint or an arbitration. Ombudsman sounds like a good idea. I think a lot of people don't have an idea of, what their complaint really is. Maybe they can work things out without going to a formal hearing. I'm not one. I don't know who is one. A mediation is preferred dispute resolution. That's true. Pathways to Professionalism document features a list of professional courtesies and etiquette that may be voluntarily followed by realtors. True. Probably should have to. Code of ethics is what sets real estates apart from other real estate professionals because it establishes a higher level of performance and professionalism. True. Everybody passed the test.
Does Minnesota use mediation or just arbitration?
Yeah, mediation, arbitration.
They do use mediation.
It's whatever parties agree to. Been in arbitrations, I haven't been in a mediation.
Yeah, I didn't. That's why I didn't know Minnesota used that.
Next time it's going to be on the next articles. This is duties to brokers.
Duties
And
to
realtors.
brokers or duties of brokers?
Duties to
brokers.
To others.
Did I tell you about the hearing I went to? The one for local,
Oh, you mentioned something about
for our policies and procedures, for SEMA. It started at 10 a.m. I think we started 5 or 10 minutes early and we were done at 10:25.
Wow.
And
Did
So
one
30
party show up?
minutes.
yeah, and Beth said, because there were a couple of us that were new, so I was the alternate, so I didn't vote. But she was like, she's the chair, so she was like, don't expect them to be like this. Block hours
Did
of
somebody
time.
not show up? Or?
No, it was very clear for the guy and what he wrote as far as like what he had violated and what happened. And then we listened to him, and then Brian Russo talked, you know, as the board representative. And then pretty much everybody was in agreement. Like the fine was outrageous for what he had actually done. So
it was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, essentially what it was he had a listing, and he doesn't always use CMAR. So he's in another, you know, so it's not always Flex.
Another
it's always,
MLS.
yeah. And he had all of his documentation correct. He had all of the forms signed. They were signed electronically, so there was no way that he could have gone back and backdated whatever. But he had a withheld listing, and he had actually divided it into two. And then the sellers took way longer and longer and longer till they were ready to put it up. When they finally said, okay, we're ready, put it on market, he did, and he sent everything in, and he'd been violating the withholding agreement because he hadn't sent the whole package to CMAR yet. So it was a violation that times day per day for like a couple of months, times two listings. So it was, I can't even imagine when he got that letter and went,
holy moly.
And he really wasn't doing anything intentional or mischievous. It was just the rules.
and so basically our board president said the intent of this policy is to prevent, you know, pocket listings and not making public, and it's harm to the seller, like all of the, and he hadn't caused harm at all. He had absolutely done what the seller wanted him to do. He had everything signed correctly. He had asked his transaction coordinator if he needed to send anything in. She said no, because in the other MLS you don't need to until it goes live, and in ours it was different. And we all agreed, every single one of us was like, yes, we're all supposed to know everything, but we absolutely rely on our staff.
Mhm.
I mean, if I were to ask June before or Nikki now, do I have to do this? And she said, nope, I'd say, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if she said, no, you got to get this, I'd say, okay. And yeah, so I mean, it was seriously, it was thousands.
Oh.
And so everybody went, okay. He didn't violate policy. He did violate procedure by not submitting it, but the punishment doesn't fit the crime.
Right.
Yeah. Well, shit happens.
So pretty much everybody right away said, this is way too much money for what happened. And even the way the board president presented it was like, you know, this is the intent of this policy, and I don't think that any of that happened in this situation, because somebody afterwards said on the panel, they were like, so was this sounded like he thinks we should just dismiss it.
Yeah,
But-
dismiss it.
So Margaret said, well, but you can opt not to find him at all or not to whatever. But I mean, it was more like, okay, somebody else, if they did this, it would have been a day. They would have, you know, it would have been $25 per listing or whatever. I mean, it wouldn't have been 2.5 months or 2 months or whatever that, so.
I'll be much more careful in the future.
Yeah, and he even said, I happen to think that this is a really good rule. Like, that's why he had the withholding agreement signed.
And that's why he also asked.
Yeah.
He asked.
I mean, he said, he doesn't like it when a particular office tries to keep everything in that office and not present it to the public. And he does believe that's harm to the seller. And he hadn't done that at all. I mean, it wasn't his intent. He didn't have any showings prior to that. I mean, you know, he hadn't had it pinned up in his office or, you know, so, yeah.
Oh, well, life's rough.
But I was glad, since I had no vote and I had no say, I was glad that everyone else that was on the panel felt the same way. Since I couldn't do anything about, if they had all agreed that this is fair and just, I would have been like, but it's,
stay out of trouble.
Mhm. So I hear we got one brokerage going out of town and another one coming in.
Well, Chris Lindahl's already
What?
here.
Is he the one that took over Handy Andy?
I don't know if that's when he heard that Andy was leaving, but he took over all of Andy's billboards.
Yeah.
Who's what?
Chris Lindahl, real estate team.
Is that his brother-in-law or something?
No, he's not from Rochester.
He's from the cities,
Because
isn't he?
Andy turned all of his listings and stuff over to his brother-in-law or something.
Was that what he did?
So I don't know who's
Well, his brother-in-law works for him,
works for him.
Handy Andy. It was his sister and her husband both worked for.
So they start up their own company then, or?
I have no idea.
Well, I
But
just
Chris
heard from a
Lindahl's
lender
from-
that golfed with one of the agents that worked for Handy Andy that somebody was actually from the Twin Cities coming down and basically buying out
His stuff.
his stuff. And that was like, I heard that like 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, something like that. And that there was just an agent from the cities coming down and buying, and starting over. So Handy Andy will be gone, but somebody bought.
So Chris may have taken over like all of his marketing,
And
like I'll finish out your billboard, this, that, I don't, maybe
Right.
even took the office space, I have no idea, but Chris Lindahl's from up north,
I heard. I tried calling him.
cause he's,
We had a little issue, not with him, but one of Andy's people came here. Andy didn't want to keep him under contract, basically.
we can't once it's,
Well, with
Switch.
his commissions. He wasn't gonna release his listings or his buyers until he agreed to pay 50% referral. He didn't want it, because at a meeting, he said he would accept 25%. Well, I called all the other brokers, and people went there, and one of them said that 4 of the agents who came to them are not gonna pay him anything. They'll end up in commissions or whatever. And one did pay the 50%. She just wanted to get the hell out of there. And then the other 3 said they're not doing anything. If Andy wants his commission, he's going to have to file legal pleadings or arbitration. And then you're going to have witnesses. Said at this meeting, there were 12 people at the meeting, and they said that he paid, he released it for 25%. And then when the form actually came to him, it was 50%.
well,
but I know Chris Lindahl, somebody told me they've got, like their dad's cabin up north is where Chris Lindahl team like has signs all over the place. So not even Twin Cities, but north of that.
mhm.
And I don't know, I just watched the video from, who's the agent that he actually has here? It's not Chris himself, it's somebody named Brad. Because I've gotten calls from him already and emails asking, like, do you want to know more about us? Basically trying to build their roster, so. I think they have 2 agents down here. I think they have 2 agents here on the Chris Lindahl team.
They have a team in our office?
Not in our office, no.
No.
No, that's their,
I
Chris
thought-
Lindahl Real Estate is its own.
Yeah, I thought
He's
there's
his own
like
as broker.
4 or so many agents went to that company.
I don't know, the video that I just watched this morning from Brad, whoever he is, said they had 2 agents. But I don't know how old that video was either. Might have just been sitting in my inbox and I finally watched it.
Where was it? Facebook or something?
No, it was
Just
email.
email it.
Can you forward it to me? That's-
I bet I deleted it. But yeah, it'll be in my trash. Yep. I'll
There's
forward it
a
to you.
bunch of them right now sending stuff out to everybody. Again,
Because everyone's in flux. You know, I mean, when you have an office shut down that had 15
but sometimes you
people,
see
people are
more
moving.
like the end of the year, and
Yeah.
this year it's been like all year long. Like a lot of times,
Infinity's been picking up a lot.
Infinity has
Yeah.
been just constant.
See, I think he's always constant. I'm just on his
Maybe
email
that's
list, I
just
think.
his
He's
email,
just-
yeah.
Counselor now, it seems like Infinity.
Used to get stuff from him every other week.
Most of what I get from Joe is more like messages on Facebook, like versus email. I don't get a lot of emails
I
from
get
Joe.
emails from him too.
And messages on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I don't get too many just strictly email, except for the ones that he sends out to everybody. But, no, and John Espy, he set up 2 different meetings with me and never showed up to either one of them.
You didn't show up?
He canceled. First one he had to reschedule, and then the next one he canceled. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm all over it going to you.
I kept all appointments when I came to come. Okay, class dismissed.
So who was the guy that was in here? Is he new?
That was a realtor. That's Sean.
Sean?
I've never seen him before.
Really? Oh, he's around quite a bit.
Sean.
Oh,
Sean, that wasn't him. That wasn't Sean.
what was Sean? Who's this?
That's right.
I don't know who that
Is he the
is.
new guy, Jay?
Jake. I get my
Jake.
names mixed up. There's people coming all the time.
Jay Lynn something? Jay?
Yeah, I might have just remember seeing him being welcomed,
Mhm.
but I've just never seen him.
I hadn't met him before. Probably should have introduced ourselves.
Yeah, probably.
Like, still do that.
Well, it was kind of during the class, so.
2:00 to do.
Oh, I got stuff to do.
Here.
Are you going to business after hours tonight?
Am I what?
Going to business
Oh,
after
that's
hours?
tonight.
Where's that?
It's,
Terra Loco.
no, it's
Oh.
from Pasquale's to Premier Bank down on 5th Street,
Pasquale?
the
The
pizza place.
Oh, somebody told me their pizza's really good.
It is.
really good.
My son works there, so we eat it all the
Oh,
time.
it is so good. It's like what, so when we go to Montana to visit Rudy at college, Pasquale's has exactly what you get in Montana. It's like from farm to pizza. And there's not a lot of places like that. You know, and that's what it, from farm to table, it's from farm to pizza. Everything's so fresh and lots of different fun kinds of ingredients. And,
What time's that?
but
5?
I'm sorry, I mentioned the happy hour. Isn't that coming up too? That's tomorrow night. Is there a happy hour on ours? I thought July had a happy hour. Maybe it's next week for a Thursday night happy hour at Terza. On the
You
schedule.
said Terra Loco, and I was like, why would
Did
there
I
be
say
in
Terra
there?
Loco? I'm sorry, I meant to say Terza.
I'm like, why would there be a happy hour?
Sorry about that.
Already, going back to sleep.
Go back to sleep.
Thanks, Jim.